Hello, and thank you for joining us today for the Harrington Quality Management Software Training Management Overview. This is a real interesting subject that we hear a lot from the HR people and our customers that it's really misunderstood by a lot of people. The questions are easy. How do you know that every employee has the skills and competence to do their job? But the process of determining the training needs and scheduling the training and creating the training records is often an administrative nightmare. We have a nice group of people joining us today. Because of the number of people, the phones are muted. But we would like to answer some questions, so use the questions block to do that. And a copy of the presentation is available upon request. So what we're going to talk about today, I talked briefly about the problem, administrative nightmare, and how it works. And again, just a little more about, how do I link documentation to job descriptions and employees? And, how do I schedule document-driven training or even ad hoc training? We just did some training this morning on the fly out on the shop floor, and I want to record it. But, it keeps getting more detailed. And this is where a lot of people just don't understand the mechanics of it. How about expiration dates on certifications or training? And how about just immediate access to training status? Is Cachet trained at doing this? So, again, it's labor intensive. It's a highly clerical administrative process that the Harrington Quality Management Software can solve. Good training requires effort. Effective retraining requires a business system. So again, the skills to do their job, the training they have. How about this one? We had a class and nobody showed up. Well, what's your process for notifying the trainee class attending? And how do you make sure the classes are organized and the subsequent qualifications are all managed? And what if we just have to do it for everybody in the company who's a quality engineer? And what we found, the other thing we hear from our customers is internal audits, external audits, doesn't matter, but it just seems like all the time and effort we spend on training somehow falls through the cracks. And interesting enough, talk about costs, failure costs. Some employees are trained too much, while others are miscategorized, neglected, or even underutilized. So, this idea of defining the training needs, developing the courses, scheduling the classes, notifying people that should go, executing, performing the class, and tracking this expiration, all is part of the HQMS training management tool. And again, the ability to talk with other modules, to connect with document control is part of the process. Making sure we got the right documentation uploaded, make sure we got the right material put together. And, reporting, the ability to quickly see who's trained and who's coming up or whose training is expiring, and then any type of analytics or charting. Show me the documents that are out of date. Show me the training aging. All that information is at your fingertips in HQMS. HQMS really has everything and the kitchen sink in it. Everything else, your IT department is going to ask about security, using HTML5 compliant browsers, the ability to configure things. And you'll see some of this when Rodney, our subject matter expert, goes into the software in a bit. All the reporting, all the ability to configure and doing it, training, making sure that we're notified, manage the employees' competency, and we didn't even talk about this yet, new hires or existing employers. We got to make sure that we apply the bolt to them. A lot of the training that we've seen in customers were great for new employees, but it fell apart when we got the necessary recertification of skills. And again, a proper history to be able to put it together. But, when you have the ability to change screen levels, tailor the training process, design queries, and the flexibility of HQMS, that's where it really pays off. So with that, I'm going to make Rodney, our subject matter expert, a presenter. and he's going to show us some of the software tool.
Great, thank you, John.
Over running.
All right, thank you, John. Let me get my screen ready. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to be showing the training module here to run through a short little demo. Highlighting kind of 5 key areas within this system. Really, the training module, we could call it a system because it has multiple modules that all come together and work together. For example, at this training center, you can see the various modules. So really, you have to kind of understand how the system is put together, then everything else flows into place. So the first area is the training module. This is also like your course catalog. So it starts with setting up the types of training. As you create those training records in here, that sets the catalog. The next portion is where we talk about how we conduct the training. And this is just a little sample of a training record here, overhead crane operation. Now, the next part is when we actually have a training session, we call that a scheduled training record. So one training record might have multiple scheduled training records over the course of time. So when you're ready, go ahead and create this scheduled training record. And within this record, you set the time and day. There's a sign-in sheet here, or you can attach a sign-in sheet or any other supporting files. And then the last piece here is what we call our employee training records area or list. It starts with a list, and then each record has a little detail into it. So this displays all the trainings for all the employees. So then what I want to talk about how we can set up a training session. So I already have an example of a training record in the course catalog, but I want to train some users on it here. And for example, I have this notification area because I'm a coordinator. This tells me that some people that had the training, it's expired. It's time for training now. Within all the records in HQMS, you can attach files. As an example, here we have a syllabus for the training, which is actually a link to a document in our document control module. There's also a link to OSHA's website, so you can have external links to go out to web pages here. And technically, I've already created the scheduled training record here to save time. And so I'll simply navigate to that. You can see the other scheduled trainings over the course of time for this record. And so now this is, just the detail page here, which looks similar to the previous page that we were on. And so in this scheduling area, this is where we can add employees to the training. Technically, I've already added them here to save a little bit of time. There is an easy method where you can add employees automatically to this training with a couple clicks, where it adds everybody who's expired or they're expiring soon. And that's what I did here in this example. And I have this email link here. If I click on that, it will send the details of the training to all the attendees, and I can put some extra text in there, just a little extra heads up that they'll be attending a training session. And so we'll simply approve this area here. This is just some common HQMS functionality. And then technically, to complete the training, what we have to do is just simply set date qualified value here. Just, click on today's date in the calendar or whatever day the training occurred on. And then we can save the record. And from here, we would qualify all the employees that attended. And, as I mentioned, I showed on the other record with references, we can attach files. So I could scan in a sign-in sheet or take a picture with my phone or something and attach that to the record. So that's how we conduct a training session, which once everything is configured will really be, kind of the main area of the program here. Another activity we can do is to find out possibly who needs training. There's several ways to show this. I'm going to show two here. And the first area is to go through this training list. We can look at our course catalog, records that I mentioned earlier. And we can also use this to display if any trainings have expired for the users that are associated with those training records, meaning they've taken the training, it's expired. And we can filter on any list here. I can simply go up to here on expired. I can say is greater than 0 and push enter. And so it's going to list all the trainings that have employees where they've expired. I've also set it to expiring within 30 days is greater than 0, kind of narrow it down even a little bit further. And then technically, if I clicked on one of these records, I've already shown, the training page. But if I clicked on one of these records, it would go to that training page. And then from there, I can create another scheduled training record. Another activity that I can perform from the list is I could export this. As an example, I can export to Excel. So if I click on a little export link in the top right up here, and then I click open. And so that opens up that list in Excel, all the columns that I had set there and all the records, all that information goes to Excel. So you can also customize the columns in that list, and then that would modify the columns that get exported to Excel. I can turn this into a table and, perform, advanced Excel functionality if I need to. And then another area is our employee training records list. I already went to this list here of a few minutes ago. But as an example, there's some filters here. So I have a filter saved called My Employees with Expired Training. And as a manager, and then potentially some of those people could be a manager of a user. So it's going to show through that whole tree, and it shows if they have expired training. And then, from there, I can take further action to create training records or whatnot. But I can also click on one of these records here. It would show me the details of that training when they qualify, just basic details. But then this is going to lead me into my next topic here to view a person's training record. So each user that's added to HQMS, they'll have, if you put them in training sessions, they'll have this training records area, which will list all their training records and, pertinent information. Technically from here, I could, modify the columns I talked about when we export. We can even export this little sub list here. But there's also a report on this page. If I click on print up at the top of the screen, and so I can run this employee training status report. And I chose the PDF format. You can choose other formats. I'm just keeping it simple here. The PDF will look the best for both printing, and you can send it through email since it's going to be a file that you can save. So there's an example of a basic report for one employee. There are other reports in the system, so this kind of leads into the next topic, a little bit of a carryover, but to talk about reports and charts within the training system here. And where I'm going to start is on my homepage. I have some saved reports. So reports that I might run on a regular basis, but I want to make it easy to run them. I don't want to click a bunch of stuff. I just want, one click, show me the information. So for example, here I have this one titled Training Expiration Report, My Employees. And so this will list out by date expiring all of my employees and all their training records. Only if this technically will show the records where it's set for like an expiring training. So it may not show the other records. If you paid attention to some of the other screens, you might have seen more training records, but it's not showing those here. And then, so we'll close out of there. Another area is if I click on this reports link up at the top of the screen here, and then I'll choose the training module to list out the reports available in the training module. So another example is the training status report. My filter here is assigned to training is greater than 0, so we get some good results, and then click on launch report. So, I can filter this by employees, but instead I'm showing across the whole company. There's other filter criteria that I can apply to it, but I didn't choose that here. And so here's an example here, and you can see the trainings in red. Those are where we have either expired or expiring soon entries. And so it shows the training names and some basic statistics about those trainings. And then as an example, I'm going to run a chart here. I can go back down to training. So we have the training reports and then also training charts. And this one, we just have a Pareto chart example. But technically, once I run it here, there's also some additional things I can do. So it is just one chart, but we can kind of configure it a little bit and change some of the stuff around here. So for example here, it groups by category as a default, but I'm going to group it by the coordinator of a training here. And then also, instead of showing me the number of records, like instead of showing me the number of trainings per coordinator, I'm going to set this option down here to show me the average of expired. And then I click on this refresh chart. So it shows by coordinator, which is a user in HQMS, and then it shows on average how many expired trainings are there per coordinator. Training each employee that has an expired training would be one tick on the chart. And so great. So there's my overview, and with that, I'm done, and I'm going to turn it back over to John. Thank you.
Thanks, Rodney. Appreciate the thoroughness. You already answered some of the questions that came in. The next thing we wanted to talk about was return on investment. Everything we've discussed so far makes sense, much better than we're doing now. But now and then, give me an ROI. And then, everybody wants a specific numerical ROI, and that may or may not be possible. If you need help, ask the accounting department for help. They have the data that's needed, even if the result is an estimate. And we know what the subjects are. What do we spend on training right now? If it's not in place, there's a bunch of hidden costs within payroll, where a lot of senior employees spend their hours training new hires and junior employees. There's a whole turnover factor that, again, accounting and payroll can help with. When they don't show up to work and resources from other areas are allocated to cover those deficiencies, you're moving people around all the time. And if you are training your people well, they know it. We've seen turnover decrease or increase retention, however you want to think about it, because the employees felt like the company was investing in their growth and in their careers and helping them. They stay around longer. Just more business opportunities. Are there places where your business has technology and equipment that they can do this, but they don't have the laborers to fill it out or the people to use it? With a properly trained workforce, a lot more can be achieved. Mistakes or failures, whatever you call them, employee accident, mistakes due to lack of skills, is time and money. Safety, you saw in the demo, a lot of safety examples, a lot of safety training. Just a few potential areas that eat into your profits. A training management system helps mitigate these risks. And in the demo, again, Rodney's very thorough. How do you know who's best qualified? Who has been properly trained? All that is at your fingertips with a HQMS training system. Training is one of the components of the Harrington Quality Management Software Enterprise System. If you'd like to learn about all the modules, please visit our website, give us a call, or email us at sales@hgiint.com. Just quickly, some information about the Harrington Group. Been in business since 1991 with over 45,000 customers using our tool to drive higher product quality and reduce the cost. Our team focuses on developing effective quality management software that evolves as your business grows. And we know how to get substantial short-term and long-term financial results through a blend of products and services to get you there. As I mentioned, Rodney covered a lot of the questions already in the demo, but let me scroll through these real quick. So I think he covered this one already. Can we create a record for ad hoc training? We just did this morning unscheduled, and the answer was yes. Rodney, maybe you can help on this one. This one says, tell me a little bit more about how to train a record by groups, like all the quality engineers must know this. How's that set up again, Rodney?
Yeah, good question. I actually I didn't really mention that. Technically, you can add a role to a training record. And in HQMS terms, a role is a group that we have in the group module. So an authorized user can make a group, and the groups can be set up by job function or department or, whatever you need. And then you can add, one or more groups to each training record to make sure. And then those trainings will be required for their role. And there's other flags that get set to make sure that person's trained.
That's great. That's got to be a time saver for sure. All right, we got one last one. Can we record outside training? Like I just went to the ASQ Quality 4.0 Summit, and I went through training there. Can I log that and get credit for that in the system?
Sure. There's, various fields within the record. So, or even in the notes area, you could say that it was external training. And then you can choose any date for the date qualified. So if you got trained last week, you pick last week as a date qualified, save the record, and you're all set.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining us today. If you need more information, please contact us from the website through a phone call or an email. Rodney, thank you for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you.